Greg Smith, welcome in, man, to the Inside Nebraska podcast for an emergency edition. About as big of an emergency, throw up the blinking lights and everything for today's news Saturday morning. That five-star quarterback and the nation's #1 overall player, Dylan Raiola, has decommitted from Ohio State and decided to reopen his recruitment. Raiola is obviously the son of Nebraska Hall of Fame offensive line coach Dominic Raiola and the nephew of Huskers offensive line coach Donovan Raiola, who was just recently retained as the Huskers offensive line coach. But the news is official now. Dylan hasn't announced anything, but it's official into us that he has reopened his recruitment, and Nebraska's back on the table.
Yeah, it's this is going to be a day, and it's funny, we were just joking yesterday that these last couple of days into the early signing period are always super crazy, but no one was kind of expecting any news of this magnitude from the 24 class to kind of come out. And if I know that people are kind of finally in tune with kind of what's been happening with Dylan and all of that, so it's definitely warranted for this emergency pod, because anytime you're talking about the #1 quarterback in his class, it's a big deal. But when you're talking about a legacy kid whose dad's name is in the stadium, who is not just the #1 quarterback, but the #1 player in the entire 2024 class, who could, and I've seen people say this, and I would not disagree, could be if he were in the 23 class, he could be the #1 player in that class as well. It's a very big deal that he is on the market. And we don't know at this point where the recruitment is going right now. This is all very fresh, but I think it's safe to assume that Nebraska will at least get consideration moving forward in this deal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably the most important, not probably, it is the most important point to underline and put in all caps right now as it pertains to Nebraska, is that this does not mean an outright flip to the Huskers. It doesn't mean that Nebraska necessarily even has the lead right now in Dylan Raiola's recruitment. It just means that he is back on the table, and Nebraska will have a chance to land and get their foot in the door and potentially land a player who would arguably, I'll say the word arguably just for safety's sake, the biggest recruiting win the last decade, maybe right up there alongside winning the Dominic recruitment way back when. I mean, for some of the reasons you laid out, why it's a big deal. He's, again, #1 overall player in the country, five-star quarterback, and probably the most talented quarterback in either class. Like you just said, he has that. The comparisons are Patrick Mahomes. Those have come not few and far between. A lot of people have put that out there, who are way smarter at quarterback talent evaluation than either you or I.
Absolutely.
So he's a superstar high school prospect, and he has superstar potential at the college level, and eventually one day the NFL. So it would be a monstrous recruiting win for Nebraska. But again, the Huskers are not. It's not as if he's going to be flipping right away or wind up in Nebraska's class. But just Dominic Raiola, Dylan's dad, told our Rivals national analyst Adam Gorney that #1, Donovan Raiola's retainment as the offensive line coach, quote, "that has nothing to do with it. Him being retained at Nebraska is a testament to him as a coach. Him being retained at Nebraska has nothing to do with Dylan opening back up." And Dom has said that coaches will start calling because they can call him now. We're not opposed to anybody. This is his process. He's a relationship kid, and he'll find his way.
Yeah, and it's one of the things too I was going to say is, and you led me perfectly into it without knowing, is them saying, the family, and when Dylan eventually, as a taping of this, will release a statement at some point. When he does, he'll mention relationships as well. And why I think that word relationships is extremely important is because of who Nebraska just hired as their head coach. I think that the timing of this is, while it may not be because of Matt Rule, and it may not be as Donovan, or excuse me, as Dominic has said, a lot of names flying around, it was not necessarily because of Donovan being retained. The timing is very good for Nebraska in that if we're going to reset things and we're going to open things up with this recruitment, Matt Rule being on even ground with everyone else, if I'm Nebraska's coaching staff, I'm pretty happy about that, right? Like, I'll take my chances with being able to start at the ground floor and build that relationship, knowing the history of what this staff does and has been doing in a short order here on the job and building relationships. I think that's the part, to me, if you're a Nebraska fan, to be encouraged by that. Yeah, we may or may not have like some sort of outright flip here right away. And that would be something. But just being able to get your foot in the door and have them open to hearing Matt Rule and his staff's pitch, I think is a really good thing for Nebraska, because I'll take Matt Rule on the recruiting trail with time to build that relationship.
Yeah, and apologies to anyone watching at home and to you that I keep looking down at my phone
There's
because
a lot happening.
in the middle of recording this, in the middle of texting and trying to figure out more information on this, because like we said, it came out of nowhere. This happened over the course of the last week. The decision for Raiola to reopen his recruitment came quickly, and we still don't know the reasons why necessarily, but trying to figure out more information about that and just about his overall potential recruitment to Nebraska, because again, there's something that popped up. There was a something on Friday night when Dylan wiped all pictures and videos and references to being Ohio State commit from his social media last night, and deleted his Ohio State commitment video. But so all kind of has been hitting the news cycle here this morning, and like we've said, Nebraska now is going to be able to take its shot. And his most recent visit was, I believe, in October. He came for a family reunion, and
which game was that?
I don't even remember, but I know
I don't even. It doesn't matter. Wisconsin
October.
or whatever game. I forget which game that was, but yeah. And I will say this, as you were talking kind of about looking at the phone and like checking with sources and all of this. I will say this, and I just got this text from a Nebraska source. Quote: "It will be tough, as you know, but we're trying." So Nebraska is definitely making an attempt here. As you know, that part is not breaking news. Everyone is aware kind of what's happening here, but we'll kind of see. Like this it's going to be a fascinating thing to see play out as we move forward here.
Yep. And again, the two things to underline: number one, Donovan Raiola, the decision to retain him had nothing to do with Dylan's recruitment. I reported that last week, and that's still the same now. I know a lot of people will think that's coincidental, or that's not coincidental, but just to underline the fact that it was coincidental. The two decisions are separate from each other. And like you said, Dylan, it's going to be hard for the Huskers to land him. He's not going to have any shortage of
yeah, anywhere he wants to go, he can go, unless maybe the one there. I mean, I don't want to go to, like, there won't be naming schools off, but like there are schools that have 24 quarterbacks, like they might be out, but even they might be looking around saying, well, if we can get him, like maybe we'd redo some things here. So yeah, no shortage of suitors.
And then I don't know if you mentioned this when I was looking down earlier, but no plans right now to reclassify to the 2023 class. But I guess that's sounds like that's not off the table, but there's no plans to do that.
Yeah, that part to me, honestly, I mean, and there's a lot of things to underline in this. That to me, I've got my eye on. We have, like, that was totally off of my radar at like completely, since he wasn't a Nebraska commit, so and is not as like, so it's not something that I've been looking into. But the fact that that's even being discussed is really, really intriguing. Dominic did say that it's part of the process. We're looking into things, and so we'll see one way or the other if that's on the table. But it does not seem like the door is completely closed on him reclassifying to the 23 class, which, boy, that would be just gigantic news if that was the case.
Yep, and we'll see is probably the proverbial phrase. We're going to be looking
Yes.
into it throughout the rest of the day. They're actually putting finishing touches on the apartment buildings across from me, and throughout the last week, and right now as I'm talking, they're testing out the fire alarms in each place. So that's honestly kind of poetic and serendipitous, right? The alarms are going off out here right across from me, and the alarms are going off here with with Raiola's recruitment and his decision. We'll have more coverage and be looking into it more at Inside Nebraska. That's nebraska.rivals.com. Make sure to like and subscribe. Like this video and subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube page for more coverage of this and plenty more. So for Greg Smith, I'm Zack Carpenter, and we'll catch you guys again next time.